We will get into the football right now with John Clayton from the Washington Post as the NFL season winding down, John. But, man, the last time we spoke, Doug Peterson was the coach here in Philly, and now you're back, and he's gone. What happened?
You kind of get the feeling that there's philosophical differences. I don't know if we buy the stories that have been coming out that
It sounds like we got a bad connection with John. We will try to reconnect with him here on the Boardwalk Honda hotline. All right, John Clayton's back with us here. Now we'll start again because the last time we talked to John, Doug Peterson was the coach.
You know how crazy it's been this week? I mean, as crazy it is with the Doug Peterson thing, we had bad winds in the middle of the week that wiped out power for 300,000 homes.
Wow.
And even now, I mean, I lost power for over a day. And, all the cell phone lines are all kind of messed up still.
Holy mackerel. That is, man, what a world we're living in right now. This is crazy. But so you were saying about philosophical differences, it sounds like, was basically the demise of Doug.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I mean, it sounds like, he and, again, this is not putting the blame on anybody, but, we heard tales that, he didn't like being told as many things to do that he's been told. Whether that's true or not, we don't know. Certainly there seems to be some disagreement on talent. I mean, again, it's like, the one that I don't know who went with what, but there seemed to be one story that, it seemed that Howie Roseman wanted Justin Jefferson, or Justin Jefferson was wanted by Doug Peterson, and they ended up taking Jalen Reagor. And so there seems to be a bunch of that. But, I mean, clearly the big thing is somebody was going to be the fall guy for this season, and it wasn't going to be Howie Roseman because he's got to fix the big problem with the cap coming up and, see what they can maintain as a team. And, Doug had all the declining things going on with Carson Wentz. And I don't know if there was a disagreement on Jalen Hurst or what, but in the end, it just seemed that it was kind of a mutual parting. But again, unfortunately for Doug, he takes the heat for the season.
Yeah, now, John, here in Philly, everybody wants to know why Roseman is almost an untouchable. I mean, do you look at that from where you sit and wonder why the same thing, or do you think because people in Philly are too close to the situation? I mean, people I want this guy gone 6 ways to Sunday.
Yeah. No, I understand. I probably study the cap as much as any reporter in the country that covers this sport. And there's no way any human being other than Howie Roseman, who knows where everything is as far as the contracts, can dig out of the problem if the cap goes down $20 million. Nobody can do it because they can't come in there and assess things and make things right. And so that makes Howie totally in regards to being fired. They can't do it because, I mean, it's going to be bad enough. And, I think maybe in some part, too, Doug, if this is a mutual thing, is realizing this team's not going to be good next year because of all the things that are going to have to happen cap-wise to make things right. And so when you put all that together, Howie is invincible this year. Now, what I'm curious about, because I don't think enough has been brought out about this, they brought in John Dorsey as a consultant, correct?
Yes.
Wouldn't it be a good idea to promote him and have him as the general manager? And this is not taking anything away from Howie. I mean, he still has the power and everything else. But John Dorsey's good. And, he can start cleaning up a lot of the, things as far as, getting the roster eventually back to where it needs to be. And, if it's going to be more than a consultant, because, I mean, he would be one of the perfect guys to bring in there. Now, what you wonder about is that, if he comes, does that get Eric Bieniemy over because they work together in Kansas City? But the problem with Eric Bieniemy, because right now the odds of him getting a job aren't good, is that he can go ahead and because again, until they get eliminated from the playoffs, you can't really do anything with him. You can't interview him, but also, I mean, you can maybe hire him without the interview and then have John Dorsey go get the coaches for him.
Yeah, that's Howie Roseman sounds like a radio engineer. They have these studios hooked up in such a manner that they're the only person that can figure out how to fix them, so they can never get fired, ever. They know how to do everything. Like these boards, no one knows how to do this. The engineer's the only guy. That's essentially how you just explained why Roseman is almost an untouchable, is that he put them into this mess, and he's the only person that can kind of get them out of it, it sounds like.
Yeah, that's the case. Because obviously it's a mess because, you looked at the beginning of the season. You didn't expect Washington to do well, and they won 7 games. You didn't expect the Giants to do well. They lost 10 games. But you expected that, Philly with the quarterback situation, Dallas with the quarterback situation and their talent, that was going to be the 2 teams competing for the division. And, it turned out to go completely the opposite way. And, you can see that the receiving position has not been drafted well at all. You can see that, there's certainly, the bad injury issues on the offensive line. That hasn't helped. But, a lot of things haven't gone right, and it starts to need to get right because, this season coming up, I don't know if it's going to be as tough as this year, but it's not going to be that much better.
All right, John Clayton, Washington Post. Of course, they need a coach now. You mentioned Bieniemy. There's a lot of guys out there. Some are starting to get plucked away. Is there a guy that stands out to you as, hey, if this guy's available, any team needs to go out and grab that particular guy? Is there a best candidate?
We're starting to run out of them. I don't know where it stands with Joe Bradley, the Carolina offensive coordinator. I think that, he could be in the mix. Certainly you'd have to think what's going to end up happening is that they're going to hire an offensive guy, and there's still some good offensive coaches, but Arthur Smith just literally this afternoon took the Atlanta job. It certainly looks like Dan Campbell is going to go to Detroit. And so it's not as if they have to kind of rush things a little bit because, they're competing against Houston, which is a bad job, and it's going to be hard for them to go. And I'm starting to hear Jim Caldwell could get the job down there. So, there's still enough coaches that they can go to. But, again, who is going to be that right fit is the big question.
All right, John Clayton, we got that. We got games this weekend, so let's get a couple thoughts. Starting off with that first game on Saturday. Going to be cold, Green Bay, tough place to win, but that defense is pretty good with the Rams.
Oh, the defense is sensational. Because and honestly, if the Rams lose, there might be some consideration to go defense with Brandon Staley because Brandon Staley has just done an incredible job. Because when you think, and of course, what Brandon Staley did with the defense helped get Brad Holmes the general manager job in Detroit. Because you look at the 4 names of Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, Michael Brockers, and Leonard Floyd. You can't name the other 7 starters. Nobody knows them. But the defense came together because what Brad Holmes did, along with Les Snead, the general manager, is get good speed at linebacker. They've got good talent in the secondary, and they're definitely good on the defensive line. And so when you put all that together, and he comes up and they have the number 1 defense in the league. Now the question is going to be, what can Jared Goff do in a 25-degree wind chill with 3 pins in his thumb when last week in a little warmer area here in Seattle, he couldn't throw a spiral. And he's going to be in the conditions in Green Bay where you got Aaron Donald, who has just been carving up everybody with 48 touchdown passes.
Can the Bills contain the Ravens' running attack?
Maybe not contain, but if they slow it down enough that they have to settle for field goals, then it's tough because you still need a 2-pronged attack to be in the playoffs and win, particularly if you're going to go against a team like Buffalo, which is really they're 6-0 against top 10 type defenses, okay? And the Ravens have a top 10 defense. They're really good on defense. You can make the argument that maybe the Ravens have more talent than the Bills, but is Lamar Jackson going to be able to go into that game in Buffalo with, it looks like it's not going to necessarily slow, but it's going to be sloppy, it's going to be cold, and that's going to limit him because one thing that he advanced last week was the ability to come back from a 10-point deficit and run the ball still and get the win, but he's still not good enough as far as the throws to the outside the numbers. And so I think advantage to Josh Allen, but hey, it's a wide open game that anything can happen.
Sunday, interesting. Can Cleveland run the ball enough, or is Kansas City going to be able to? Can they keep up with Kansas City?
I think it's going to be tough but even if they don't keep up with Kansas City and all of a sudden the Chiefs fall behind, you've got a quarterback that's right now, I still think, as good as it is for Aaron Rodgers and some of the other quarterbacks, you got Patrick Mahomes, who's the best quarterback in the league. And if he's down 10, 14 points in the third quarter, he can come back and do it. I know it's only had 3 comebacks, this year as far as fourth quarter comebacks, but so much of it's because they had the lead enough they didn't have to worry too much about it. But I think it can be a challenge because they will be able to run the football. And Baker Mayfield, say what you want about him. I mean, in the last 5-6 games, he's played like a Pro Bowler. I mean, he's playing his best football right now, and so it's going to be a challenge. But again, I still think the Chiefs are the better team.
Do the Saints have the book on Tom Brady?
They had the book. I don't know if they still have the book because what the book was, he couldn't throw deep accurately. Well, of late, particularly since that 38-3 win or loss to the Saints, which was the second blowout type of loss they had, he's been throwing the ball better. He's getting more comfortable in the offense, and he's doing well. And so, like the big argument now, and you pause a little bit, with Drew Brees only getting 7 points in a home game in the first half against the Chicago Bears. The Bucs have a good defense too, and so now can Tom Brady, attack a little bit deep and get some things going? Because if he can, he has a chance to win. I still think the Saints have the advantage because they have a really good defense. They have Alvin Kamara. They have Michael Thomas, who's now back. But hey, it's still the thought: can you actually envision? Because if it happens, it happens. Tom Brady losing 3 games in one season to one team.
John Clayton, Washington Post, and of course he has 8 big questions for the divisional round. Check that out at WashingtonPost.com. I guess the one big question is who's going to be able to knock off one of these quarterbacks. They have combined for 12 Super Bowls. Brady, Brees, Rodgers, Goff was in a Super Bowl as well. So will one of those guys get back? You got Mahomes as well. He won one last year, so there's a lot of success. One guy I do want to ask you about before we run, John, Ben Roethlisberger, do we see him back? They got similar to the Eagles with the cap problem with Roethlisberger, with him being there or not being there, that's going to be a huge storyline to watch.
Yeah, I think he'll be back, but again, there's no guarantee of it because he finished the season throwing pretty bad. But I still look at the fact that in the 2 games, the Colts game, the second half, and then the second half last week in the playoff loss to Cleveland, he threw for 324 yards. I mean, he lit it up, had an incredible comeback against the Colts, which has a real good defense, and Cleveland has a good defense. And so there's still something there, but you're right with the cap. I mean, would they be better served to see if there's a cheaper type of deal to maybe trade for a Sam Darnold? I mean, that could be a possibility, but I think in the end they still believe in Ben, and they're a pretty loyal organization.
All right, NFL playoffs right here on 97.3 ESPN. John Clayton has been our guest to talk a little football as we're running out of weeks in the NFL season. Hear all the action right here on 97.3. And, of course, John Clayton, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline. John, enjoy the games.
Hey, thank you.